very few words, spending precious quality time as quantity time was depleted. We resonated deeply, she having taken ownership of profound responsibility within her community. I, willing at heart, but just beginning, she displayed for me the resolute spirit of her nature. She spoke motivating truths not readily apparent to me. Easily missed by an attentive soul, though willing to serve. She made plain the wide common ground that we walk on, making it feel the firmer part of my journey. Sometimes we have to be shown the way, and in a small available time, she helped me realize so much sameness, such that I will carry her light and join her forces. She shared her wisdom and modeled her commitment. So on her behalf, I hold forward-minded sentiments. Building, I feel that I'm helping her build that core that has a part in leaving a better world. She is including me in the circle. I'm honored to say I'm in a circle like this we see gathered here. Thank you, Marcia. Thank all of you.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that tells a new creation. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I cling. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest loudly roars? I know the truth it bears. What though the darkness round me grows? Songs in the night sings despair. No storm can shake my inmost calm.
It is good to be with all of you, all of Marcia's beloveds. My name is Amy Carlson, and I was roommates with Marcia for the last 7 years, as well as her caregiver the last few months of her life. Yeah, so I'm just going to share kind of three snippets of Marcia, the way I see it. First thing is that it was never boring living with Marcia. She decided to take up boxing one year, and so she would put up a mat in her room, and every now and then I would just hear these bam, 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 punches against the wall. I'm like, yep, okay, there's Marcia practicing her boxing. She also took up yodeling during the pandemic, and so every now and then I would hear Marcia yodeling back in her bedroom, and I remember one time she asked me, like, does that really get on your nerves, this yodeling business? And I was like, it really doesn't. It was just like there's somebody there, and they are making noise, and it's joyful noise, so it really didn't bother me. And then she was also a practitioner of laughter yoga, so every now and then there was like a phone number she could call and laugh and do this laughter yoga, ah ha 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 ha. So I'd hear her laughing in the back room. So never boring. And we would just have some great conversations around the dining room table. I felt like there wasn't anything that I couldn't talk to Marcia about, from our dating lives and boys and family histories, politics, social justice. We talked a lot about spirituality and religion, and I just really appreciated her as a person that I could really go into such depths with. And it wasn't always easy living with Marcia. Marcia could be fierce from time to time. And Marcia really valued honesty and communication and confrontation. And sometimes that was really hard for me. I was raised in a family where it was valued to be polite and nice and to keep some of your opinions and some of your feelings to yourself. So sometimes that was difficult terrain for me. But I really, really appreciate this value that she held of communication and of sharing of one's opinions. I admire it, and I'm working on it on myself, and I have her as my model. She educated and advocated up until her last few days. Her nurse, Ayumi, wonderful, wonderful hospice nurse, Marcia gifted her with her anthology, With Wings, and Ayumi was extremely grateful for that and so impressed with Marcia having put together a book. And then also, as has been said about Crip Camp, when our hospice doctor came and visited, she asked him, as my dying wish, you must see Crip Camp. And he was like, oh, yeah. She was like, no, promise me, you will see Crip Camp. She was like, okay. So I hope he did. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you today is a talk that Marcia and I had in the kitchen shortly after, maybe it was a week or so after Marilyn Golden's passing and her memorial. I did not have the privilege of knowing Marilyn, but I know a lot of people here in the disability community and the co-counseling community very, very dear person, and a very, very dear person to Marsha. And Marsha was very sad about Marilyn's passing, and she was very struck by the outpouring of love at Marilyn's memorial. And what she said to me in the kitchen was that she feared that maybe Marilyn didn't know or fully take in just how amazing she was. And so Marsha turned to me and she was like, Amy, I want you to know just how amazing you are. And I turned and I looked at her and I was like, Marsha, I want you to know just how amazing you are. And then we kind of went back and forth, how this was like, you're amazing, no, you're amazing, no, you're amazing. But I really do think she would want me to pass on this wish to all of you. Just know how amazing you are. And to Marsha, everybody truly mattered and was radiant. So please, please, please rest in your amazingness. I think that's a word. So, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That's one of the lessons I got from Marsha as well. How amazing she was, and that her vision of all of you being amazing. I got to know Marsha through one of her staunchest advocates, her mother, Marsha Saxton, a longtime member of UUCB. Mary Lee and I shared a birthday, and she was also my daughter's 5th grade teacher at Albany Marin School. So I let Mary Lee know that my daughter Rachel had become a pediatrician. And she told me that her daughter Marcia was also a doctor. Mary Lee was very proud of her accomplishments and wanted my daughter to get to know Marcia's work in the disability arena. But it wasn't until Mary Lee died that Marcia and I got to know each other in a more than casual way. I don't quite remember how it happened. I think perhaps one of our ministers knew that we had both recently lost our mothers and might like to connect. And so we did. We took walks out at the Richmond Marina around the Rosie Riveter Monument. Marcia arrived in her van with her walking sticks, and I learned how to use mine better because of her. And as all of you know, Marcia was open and easy to talk to, and we found a certain solace in reminiscing about our mothers on those walks while we contemplated our own lives. We soon came to depend on each other to keep ourselves motivated to exercise and to eat right. We shared a book about dieting, and Marcia gave a workshop at her home on eating less sugar, including a lovely assortment of foods that demonstrated lovely taste without sugar. And another favorite moment was when I discovered that 2 pieces of used clothing I had selected at a rummage sale here were those that Marcia had donated, one of which is this dress she made. And it just fits me perfectly. So another was a lovely vest that complements many things that I wear. Somehow it seems we were on the same wavelength in a number of areas, and I was delighted to go to weed in her garden on occasion. When her partner died, we shared another time of grieving. And Marcia was an unabashed advocate for recognizing hearing loss as a disability that should be giving as much attention to wheelchair ramps here at the church. I'm grateful for her friendship, her wisdom. I miss seeing her cheerful, loving face. I hope she's further enlightening the world from her new place in the universe.
Hello, my name is David Rubain, and I'm involved in the reevaluation co-counselling communities. And I think, and I'm sure that many of you will be aware that Marcia was a really, really important person in the communities. I'm really sorry I can't be with you today. I'm actually videoing this from my home in London, in England. But I wanted to say something about Marsha's role in RC, re-evaluation counselling, what she meant to the community and also what she meant to me personally. As I'm sure you all know, Marsha was a major, major disability rights activist and friend to many of us involved in the disability movement. And in counselling, which is a practice that focuses on the impact of oppression on people's lives, she played a critical and key role. In fact, she had a title, International Liberation Reference Person for people with disabilities. And her role in that regard was to think about the liberation of disabled people and the building of allies and allyship to support that liberation. Marsha and I got to know each other through that work. She and I also had friends and others in common because I also have been involved in the disability movement here in England. And we spent many, many times together, mostly on the phone or on Zoom.
She made us a conjoined twins costume. I wonder if anyone in the room was here. I don't know if Hale or Wendy or Anthony, if you're watching on live stream, or Jenny. It was an incredible party. And anyway, she made this whole costume. And we couldn't move, of course, without moving together. We couldn't talk to anyone without just talking to that person together. As we took it off, I just found that I so missed being right beside her, the warmth of her, and I think about that a lot now. That's how it feels now. But I think because I had an experience of being with a small gathering of people before Marcia died, where I think she literally told us she wanted all to celebrate with us how amazing she was. And I started talking, I probably told the conjoined twins costume story, and she interrupted me, and she wanted me to talk about our work together, her work at Cal. And so I think that that is kind of what I'm supposed to do today. So I teach at Berkeley. And as we already talked about, Marcia played a founding role in starting the disability studies program at Berkeley in the mid-90s and taught in it from that moment on. She was one of the founders of that program. And we're writing the University of California Memorial for Marcia now. And we had a lot of contributions from people about how foundational her intellectual work was. In some cases, the very first person to be doing that work, and in so many different fields. And I'd be glad to talk about that with people. But there was one comment that someone sent in that I really love. It's from Ruha Benjamin, who's a professor of African American Studies at Princeton. And this is what she wrote. In Marcia's presence, we are all reminded that people's lives depend on the good or bad ideas that shape our world. She taught us that eugenics wasn't simply a bygone era, but a practice that still inflects our institutions, our relationships, even our imaginations. Marcia's decades-long work didn't just entail educating people, but activating all of us to confront the deadly status quo at the level of policy and practice. But I think Marcia's own voice always speaks best. And I want to read you a little about something she wrote in-house to describe her teaching at Cal, which I got to witness for 25 years, sometimes sitting in on her entire semester and talking with her a lot about what she was up to. And this is what she wrote at one point. So she's talking about her disability studies classrooms at Cal. She said, the majority of my students in my class are non-disabled students. And some of them, she said, simply found an interesting class that met one day a week on Thursdays. And then she said, I welcome these students. They bring a fresh naivete that keeps us experienced teachers and students from getting jaded. These are the goals I aim for and am privileged to see achieved. And I just got to say, boy, did she achieve them. So she was talking about the students, the non-disabled students, who just kind of showed up in her class and her goals. These students will come to substantially re-evaluate practically everything they thought they already knew. They will significantly change their personal attitudes and behaviors and will likely communicate some of this new knowledge to their peers and to their family members with enthusiasm, even insistence. And then she wrote about what she wanted for the disabled students who found their way to her classes. She wrote, they will very likely experience a kind of validation as students and human beings that they rarely, if ever, experienced before in school. Intense and often hidden issues of disability will be recognized, explored, and elevated. The characteristics and the experiences which had previously excluded and stigmatized them will be reframed to become an essential source of knowledge and expertise. And boy, did she do that. About all her students, she wrote, and this is an incredible thing to write, very simply, matter-of-factly, I believe my courses can virtually change their lives in one semester. And she was right. At one point in a very famous essay on disability and selective abortion that she wrote, Marcia said, every day we have to make judgment calls as we assess our own ability to live well and right. And it is always difficult to include a vision of social change in our daily personal decisions. And then she wrote very calmly, it is everyday life which trains people to do the right thing, sometimes to be leaders. I just want to thank her for that remarkable example of just everyday life, just remarkable everyday life, which is going to keep calling on us to do the right thing. And that's because of her leadership. As Ruha Benjamin said of Marcia for the Cal Memorial, her fire lives on in all we choose to do.
made a place for you where everything is new. Spirit made a place for you where everything is new. Spirit made a place for you where everything is new. Love has made a place for you where everything is new. Love has made a place for you where everything is new. Love has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Remember me to one who lives there. She once was a true love of mine. Tell her to make me a cambric shirt, a deep forest green, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, snow-crested cloud, without no single needs and words, the child of romance, she'll be a true love of mine. Tell her to find me an acre of land, a sprinkling of me, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing?
O healing river, send down your water, send down your water upon this land. O healing river, send down your water and wash the blood from off the sand. This land is part.
I can't truly represent the disability community, though I'm sometimes asked to do so, like here at this event. The views in this population are as wide-ranging as any broad population. I'll try to do justice to this range of views, but I'm not going to pretend to be neutral here. So, who are people with disabilities? We come from all social classes, ethnic groups, ages, genders, sexual orientations, and lifestyles. The definition of disability used by the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, passed in 1990 is this: those who have substantial physical, sensory, mental, or emotional impairments that limit major life activities. Here is President Bush, the senior, signing this bill with his famous quote, "Let the shameful walls of exclusion come tumbling down." This population in the United States is estimated at about 60 million people. Most disability, disease, and early death is caused by war and poverty. Worldwide estimates are around 1 billion people with disabilities, about 1/6 of the population.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life.
Gently I go, softly I know, nothing to fear, Spirit is here, love be my guide, lift me, I'll fly, far from this place, on the wings of grace, gently I go, softly I know.
We'll have our time of sharing memories in just a minute start with David's video, which they've got working now, so hold on to the video for just a minute. So I'd like to invite us now into a time of meditation, a time to find the quiet center within ourselves, gather our thoughts and feelings, to remember the person Marcia was and acknowledge how she lives on in us. We'll begin this time with a reading, followed by a period of silence. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength or inspiration, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Let's join now in a time of silence. Amen. Poet Khalil Gibran wrote these words: "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." So now I'd like to invite folks here to be able to share memories, but before we do that, we're going to get to hear what David had to share, if the tech cooperates with us. Let's give it a try.
Hello, my name is David Rubain, and I'm involved in the reevaluation co-counselling communities. And I think, and I'm sure that many of you will be aware that Marcia was a really, really important person in the communities. I'm really sorry I can't be with you today. I'm actually videoing this from my home in London, in England. But I wanted to say something about Marsha's role in RC, Reevaluation Counselling, what she meant to the community and also what she meant to me personally. As I'm sure you all know, Marsha was a major, major disability rights activist and friend to many of us involved in the disability movement. And in counselling, which is a practice that focuses on the impact of oppression on people's lives, she played a critical and key role. In fact, she had a title, International Liberation Reference Person for people with disabilities. And her role in that regard was to think about the liberation of disabled people and the building of allies and allyship to support that liberation.
Briefly share a memory of Marcia. We've had a lot of memories shared. I know the service has been here for a while, but if anyone has a burning memory that they would like to briefly share about, raise your hand and I will bring you the mic. I ask you to keep your mask on for this since we'll be handing the mic around.
Okay, anybody there? Okay, I'll make it brief. I met Marcia online last year on Valentine's Day. I saw a post that was a year old with the photo of her. I thought she was I thought she was really cute, so I wrote to her. She responded. So we made a date to get together after some phone calls, and she had this little chainsaw that she bought that she wanted to do some work with in her yard, and she didn't know how to put it together. So the first date we had, we put the chainsaw together, and then we got around to getting to know each other. So she was quite a bit shorter than me, and she had this little routine that was just really fun, which was that she would stand on the edge of the sidewalk, and I would stand in the street. Now, at that point, we would be sort of close to each other in height. Let's see. Oh, she said that I don't have any physical disabilities, but I do have bipolar disorder, and she thought that would get me in. So let's see what else. Oh, it was a strange little event. I used to make jewelry, and I had some left over the years, and I would give it to friends, and I offered to give her this pair of earrings, and she absolutely went off. I mean, she just went berserk, because I guess somebody, I don't know, gave her a gift and expected something, or I don't know what her motivation was, but that was the fierce side of her, I guess you could say. We did a lot of hand-holding, that's about all. And I could go on and on, but I would just say that she's about one of the finest human beings I've ever met. I mean, she was just an absolute giant. That's it. Thank you.
Well, I loved that not very long before Marcia died, she sent out an email with saying that they had been blessed, she and Amy had been blessed because a little deer had been born in their yard, and then the deer came back and was dead. And she said, of course, we had to have a memorial service for the deer. And I think that was just a week or two before she died. She didn't say anything about her own death or her own memorial. Here she was having a memorial for the deer in her backyard.
Well, as most of you already know, and if you haven't, you've heard plenty about the many amazing facets of Marsha's life. But I had an amazing experience when I first met her, which was, I think, in 1993. I was invited to participate in a meeting of the Ethical, Legal, and Social Issues, which was called ELSI, division of the Human Genome Project. And I knew of Marsha, but we hadn't met personally, but we were both speaking there. And so we saw each other in person for the first time in Washington. And so she said, let's have a session, because we were both in co-counseling. And I learned in that session that she was as terrified as I was about speaking to all these very high-level Washington policymakers about how genetics could end disability by aborting, detecting and aborting fetuses that were suspected of having physical disabilities. And so she had a much harder job than I did there, because I was just reporting on my research, which basically supported her view that a disability didn't define the value of a human life, and it wasn't a reason to exclude somebody from the human race. And when she spoke, I mean, this is her fierceness. She was introducing ideas to these technocrats and these worshipers of technology that they had never been exposed to. And she was making them challenge their most fundamental associations or beliefs. And she did it
with such courage and gentleness. And she had a huge impact on me as well as all of them. And anyway, it was amazing. It's how she could be so fierce and so gentle and so persuasive all at once. Thank you.
Any other very brief memories to share? One more in the back. Mask, please. Mask, please. The mic's been passed around. That's okay. Just trying to be safe for everyone.
Okay. My name's Bob Hink. I was Marcia's neighbor for 24 years. And when I first moved in, she was kind of the welcome wagon person. She came over with some cookies for me, and I always remembered that. That was so gracious. Another thing she did that kind of stuck in my mind was when Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. She had a fundraising party at her house, which I attended, and I anteed up some money for that. I had been thinking that FEMA would take care of it, but obviously that was not the case. She was the most caring, loving person I've ever met.
All right, last one for real.
Hi there. I'm Mikal, and this is Risa, and we were classmates in high school with Marcia at El Cerrito High School and junior high school. And Risa has stories to tell too, but one quick note that in 1969, when we graduated early, Marcia and I decided that we were going to leave home and get an apartment together. So we were roommates for about 10 months. And this is something you probably don't know, but she started a business, and we started a business together making patchwork skirts, which you saw in one of those pictures, and quilts. And she probably made quilts for all of you. And I've been making quilts for the rest of my life. So, even then, she was dedicated to studying, and she was working through all that, and to pay for our $140 a month apartment, we made patchwork quilts.
Just a P.S. Marcia taught me how to knit. I'm left-handed. She was right-handed, but she taught me how to knit. She was a good teacher. And she taught me a little mantra that I still remember now. So when you're doing ribbing, it's nitwit, pearl curl. So all you knitters out there, nitwit, pearl curl, that's Marcia's legacy. One of many.
Marcia was amazing, was she not? We've gotten to share that with each other, how she touched so many, how she touched each of us, and she lives on in each of us. Today, in the days to come and in the time to come, let us reach out to one another when we need support, we need a shoulder to lean on, when we have a happy memory to share that either about Marcia or that you might have reached out to want to tell her. And as you are going, you're invited to stay and enjoy some light snacks together. Ideally eating outside on the terrace, and there's snacks both inside and I believe there's a table outside just to help with COVID safety. And all of these beautiful scarves, which were Marcia's. If you'd like to take a little bit of Marcia home, we'll bring the scarves into the atrium so you can choose them there. And I think that's my announcements I'm supposed to make. All right, go from here now with peace, with love, with courage, and remember, you're never all alone. And there is a fabulous video that we are going to end with. Sorry, folks who are on live streaming. It's another Melanie DeMore video. Take a look at her work. For those here in the sanctuary, you'll get to see this video. It's kind of long, so feel free to stay for part of it, or if you want to stay for a rather rousing end to the video, and the ending is pretty cool. So let's see the video, and blessed be. If it'll work. Let's see if it works. If it's not going to work, maybe we could just do Imagine, which I believe was queued up on the Spotify list, and we'll end with that. Let's do that. Let's just do Imagine, and we'll end with that. That should be on the list. Yeah, there's no sound. Caitlin, let's just roll with Imagine instead.
Imagine no possession.